Here's the opening range for February 2025. Looking at the Dow first, 93 points, NQ 121, and the S&P 13. Again, just a reminder, nothing in red is included in the totals, and then I go over the stuff in red with a little more detail. But those are the numbers right there. As far as the Dow in red here, this one on February 7th. It was a very small opening range, only 47 points. The last time it was that small was in May of 2024. So like 9 months or so since it's been that small of an opening range. It was only 47 points, and then you had basically a news bomb happen. So at 10:53, you had pivot number 5, 6, and 7 all hit in that 1 minute, and then at 10:54, 1 minute later, you had pivot number 8. So this combination of small opening range, very small opening range, and then a news bomb right at the time, which you ended up your pivot number 5 was a loss, which makes pivot number 6 a trade. That was a loss, which was at 10:53 as well. And then the next pivot also happened at 10:53, which was a loss as well. And then at 10:54, it was a win. So you would have had to basically triple up or do the 25% trade 3 times. And again, all in that minute, and all off of a news bomb. So anyway, that was that one. Looking at any of the other Dow red ones, there isn't any, so that's the only red one for the Dow. We'll look at the S&P next, just because we're there on the 7th. This one didn't have a small opening range. It was 9.25 points. It had to deal with the same news bomb, though. There was a loss at 10:53 and then a win at 10:53. So it wasn't really tradable. It's in red. It was a winner. It's not included down here, though. The next one is the 20th for the S&P. That one was just pretty much ugly. So it had 7 pivot hits, and pivot 1 was a loss, making pivot 2 a trade, which was a loss. Pivot 3 was a loss. Pivot 4, you finally won for the 25%. Pivot 5 was a loss for the 25%, making pivot 6 a trade, and that was a loss. And then pivot 7 was a 25% as well. Now, the opening range wasn't super small. It was 5.5 points. However, pivot 2 to pivot 7 all happened between 9:52 a.m. and 10 a.m. or 10:01. So in 9 minutes, it hit those 6 pivots, which is 35 points or so. Move down or up in those. It was a move down in those 9 minutes. So that was fairly ugly. I don't have it listed if it was a news bomb or not, but ugly nonetheless. And those are the ones you need to avoid if you can. Now the 50%, that one was super ugly. So you didn't win the 50% until trade number 7 or pivot number 7. So you would have entered at 9:53, which was a loss, 9:57, which was a loss, 9:59, which is a loss, 10 o'clock, which is a loss, 10:01, which was a win. So you would have had to, trade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different times in order to get a win. Blown your account. Again, as we spoke about, these trades this trade idea is good if you can avoid days like this. And if you can't, then you're going to blow particular accounts, but that's what it is. Then another red one here on the 21st. It was a news event. So at 10 a.m. you had pivot number 2 hit, and you hit pivot number 3 hit as well. So this was a win. Again, it's not included here, but officially it's a win. It's not included in the numbers down here, but it was a winning trade, and then the 25% would have been break even for those. The 25th, you missed. So the 25th was officially a 7-point win for the 50%. The issue with that is pivot number 2 missed the exit by 2 ticks, not 1 tick, but 2 ticks. And if you would hit that, you would not have had this winner here. So that's why I put it in red there. So again, that is not included down here. And then the 26th, you missed the entry by 1 tick on the mini at 10:03. It hit it on the micro and gave a 25 and 50% win. So really, it was just a 25% most safe win, and pivot number 3 would not have been a most safe. So that one was a little different as well, just because it missed an entry by a tick before, and we've talked about that multiple times over the months of doing these videos. So again, that was a plus 5 points, which again is not included here. And then the 27th, same type of thing. Pivot number 5 was a missed entry 1 minute earlier by 1 tick, which would have won the 25% and the 50% most safe. So, you know, we've talked about the 1 tick and 2 tick misses, whether they're entry misses or exit misses. It makes a difference and can swing things dramatically. That's why I count. It's not counted in the black here, but I talk about them and I highlight them in red, just to do it that way. The way that I trade it is if it hits it within a tick, whether it's an entry or exit, I consider that going to be a win because of the way that this trade idea is lined up, in the sense of that you have to have 1 or 2 or 3 losses or whatever in a row in order to make trades. Those pivots are important and definitely can be used as good support and resistance, and I'm not going to think around if it misses by a tick or 2. So anyway, that is the S&P. Look at the NQ really quickly. NQ kind of the same stuff. It had some ugly stuff. That week, the 21st week, had a whole bunch of stuff. So 25% for the NQ. So this one here, you had a fairly small opening range again on the 20th. Is 31 points. It was smaller in general, not necessarily the smallest in months, but is fairly small. But the 50% just would not hit. So it took you 7 pivot hits to get a win on the 50% for the NQ. So where am I? Yeah, 50% was ugly here. This one right here. So the 25% was okay, but the 50% was lost. So same thing as the S&P that I mentioned. Pivot 1 was at 945, then pivot 2 was 950, 952, 953, 957, 959, 10 o'clock. So you had a whole bunch of, and the pivot, or the opening range was about 31 points. So you, in this particular case, you went up about, excuse me, that's wrong. Yeah, you went down about 180 points in 15 minutes or so on the NQ, and basically just went through all of those pivots. Next here is the 24th. Missed a 25% exit by 1 tick. So pivot 4 would not have been a most safe entry. So this should actually be, I don't know why I did that, but I did add 17.5, so that should actually be like 104 and change. The second pivot hit, or excuse me, the second most safe entry on the 25% would have been a little screwy. The first one you would have won, but the second one was a little screwy. And then let's see, is there any other? It's 27th. We have ugly day in the S&P, or excuse me, in the NQ. You had 9 pivot hits from 9:40 a.m. to 10:01 a.m. So in that 20 minutes, the market fell about 275 points, and you got a 23% win, or 23-point win, legit on the 50%, which actually is not included here. But then it took you won pivot 3, but then pivot 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 were all losers for the 50%. So, just went straight down. It was some tape bombs, etc. By that I mean news bombs. A lot of stuff with tariffs and different things going on, and can really spike or drop the market very quickly on those news events, and usually they're not scheduled news events, so they just kind of come at random times. So anyways, an eventful February, to say the least, and we'll see what happens in March. March so far has been far more calm of a month as far as the opening range goes, but if you have any questions, let me know. Take care. Talk to you next.